Today we will be discussing one of the most successful failures in the history of successful failures, the French Revolution. Oh, Mr. Green. Why was the French Revolution a failure? I mean, it did create a new government and everything. First of all, from the past, it's not Mr. Green. You must have been watching too much name of show that we're not going to discuss to avoid a lawsuit. But anyways, yeah, I get your question. And I'm going to have to answer that a little later because I kind of have to fill in the 3 to 5 minute show right here. Up until the beginning of the French Revolution in 1789, the French government was an absolute monarchy. King Louis XVI was in power at the time of the revolution, and while many would say that he was a big jerk that nobody liked, this wasn't entirely true. He came into power at the time of a financial crisis, so naturally everyone decided to blame their issues completely on him. After the lower classes had enough with even lower wages and poorer working conditions than before, on top of not being represented well in government, they decided that they were not going to be a part of that system any longer. Once hearing about the successes of the American Revolution, they decided to stage a revolution of their own, led by the National Assembly, which was made up of mostly commoners. The fighting began in 1789, and notably, everyone remembers the storming of the Bastille. Well, it wasn't really notable because most of the prison was empty, but it was well remembered, and that's what matters. Shortly after the storming, the National Assembly published a Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, a document with a really long name that discusses exactly what the name says. This document was not a constitution, but it did strengthen fighting in urban areas. Eventually, fighting did spread to rural areas. To show this better, let's go to the thought bubble. Thanks, thought bubble. All right. Thought bubble didn't really help us. So let's take a look at this map. So, as you can see, you have your urban areas, such as Paris, some of the other cities, and the revolutionary movement moved out, as shown on these arrows, from the urban areas into the rural areas. During this time, many wealthy aristocrats and those connected with former governments, such as the National Congress and the monarchy before, were executed, with numbers killed between 16,000 and 40,000. This reign lasted until 1799, when Napoleon Bonaparte took control, when he started, guess what? Pretty much a dictatorship. Well, looks like it's time for the open letter. Nailed it.
Dear French Revolution, you pretty much suck. I mean, when before has something so right turned into something so wrong? You had a ton of promise in promoting the Enlightenment ideals of freedom, liberty, and equality, but no. You had to be influenced by your stupid radical factions that just messed everything up. You could have made France take a giant leap forward, but you took them basically nowhere. I don't care what anyone else says, you are a failure in my eyes. A failure. Best wishes, Sarah St. Pierre. So I know we've been focusing mainly on the failures of the French Revolution, but let's face it, it had its successes as well. Even if there was no longer a change of government, it was still the first showing of the Enlightenment ideas in Europe. The ideas of Europe, republics, secularism, and liberal ideologies all came out of the French Revolution. Imagine how different our lives would be if none of these had existed. So despite its many, many failures, the French Revolution was also quite successful. This leads us to the conclusion that it was a huge successful failure.